Welcome back to another edition of Roger in Kansas City. I hope you enjoyed the retro introduction that was per request of a subscriber. Nigel, the monkey in the video, has retired and moved back to his home in the Bronx, where he is doing freelance artwork. Today, we're going to discuss this little old lady's fancy hat. In particular, this jewel, right smack in the middle of her fancy hat. It looks like a ruby. I think anybody in the world would call it a ruby, but it's actually a spinel. And it's like a ruby, but it's different, chemically and otherwise. And they didn't know it was a spinel until the 1700s, blah, blah, blah. They've had this, they being the royal family, have had this in their possession since about the 14th century, and it originally came from Spain. There's something really odd going on with the ruby. Or, see what I said? It's a spinel, the spinel, and let's just take a look. Here we go. So here it is, the British Imperial Crown. I failed to mention in the introduction that the ruby has a name. It's the Black Princess Ruby. Actually, it's the Black Princess Spinel. Okay, now there's this little object on the top here. I had to figure this out. I finally found out that that's kind of a plug. That is a ruby on top of the spinel, and it's covering up a hole that someone way back when drilled a hole into it so they could put a cord and carry it around their neck or something like that. So that's there. Now that looks like a number 2, but this symbol seems to be changing a lot, and we'll see that in a moment. So let's go ahead and take a close-up look at what's going on right here. Oh, and there's only 3 people who can handle the crown. The Queen herself, or the monarch, the reigning monarch, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and the crown jeweler. I think if anybody else puts it on their head, they will die immediately. They will probably explode. Here's our first close-up. You can start to see that there are figures in here, and before I go too far, and you can rightfully say, and I've considered this, maybe it's just reflection from what's in front of the ruby. Okay, that's a reasonable idea. But if you start looking at these pictures, there's nobody in, I guess, ordinary clothing. There's nobody with a camera. And some of the photos or figures in the photos are so odd, I don't honestly believe these are reflections of something in front of the ruby. So let's keep going. So we have all these figures all throughout. These kind of cloaked figures here, kind of a devilish figure here. These odd looking creatures all throughout here. Let's look at a closer close-up of this. Here you can see this is a face. You can plainly make out facial features here, and this almost looks like a female figure wearing a hood or a hooded cloak. Again, we have this kind of demonic devil guy here. Let's take a close-up look of that ruby plug that's on top of the spinel. So the number 2 is gone, and this appears to be, it looks almost like a baby's face or a young child with a garland on its head, and there's a face above it, and right here, and probably looks like 2 faces actually, but we can make out a face here and here. I will tell you, this happens often. Once I upload it to YouTube and we get to HD, things that I interpret when I'm making the video come out very differently. So it may look very different from my description. Let's look at another photo taken at another time of the ruby. Same ruby, different scene. Let me take it up a notch. You can see people in, again, black clothing here and here. Here we have a guy. Here's his nose. He's wearing a hat. Person here. Looks like a female figure right here. Look at another picture. Here's a picture of the Queen from a recent interview with the BBC for her 65th anniversary being Queen. And there she is holding the crown. There's the spinel right there. And the next photo we're looking at will be an actual photo of the spinel, the ruby, as she is holding it in her hands. But this will be a close-up, but this is from this actual interview. Here, the ruby plug has an S on it. Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the ruby. And right down the center, we have a series of odd little characters here and here. See one here. So help me, that looks like the Kool-Aid guy that lives in the Queen's crown. But he's smiling because the Queen is looking at him right now. Figures over here. So I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to put on a few more pictures at the very end of the video with no narration, just things I didn't show. But I think it's very believable that this individual, or the individuals who wear this crown, are very involved in something other than your run-of-the-mill everyday, oh, I'm just your average queen that, you know, I sign stuff and I open hospitals. No, they're up to something. They've always been up to something. I don't want to call her a witch because that denotes being evil, but maybe she's a witch. Maybe they all are. Well, it's, yeah, they run the show. They run the show for the powers that be. And I'll say this much also, that if you were a nefarious being taking over the world, you wouldn't need that many people to run it for you. You just need key individuals that you say, look, I'm going to make you a king or a queen, and you'll have palaces and servants for your entire life. You will never have to lift a finger to do anything. You just do what I say and keep those other bozos in line. And I would say most people would say, okay, I'll take your offer. All right. Well, thank you for watching. I am Roger in Kansas City, and I'll be talking to you soon. I look forward to your comments. This was not a planned video. It was an impromptu one. We'll see how it works out. If it bombs, I'll take it down. So I will appreciate a thumbs up, and a like, and I guess that is a thumbs up. It's been a long day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Is something wrong?
Forgive me, but I'm afraid of injections.